So as was mentioned, my name is Abbigayle Dunlavy. My project is Seniors in Social Media, using social media training to combat loneliness in older adults. And my faculty mentor was Dr. Elliot Blumenthal, who also deserves a great deal of thanks for his help on this project. So the background for my project, there are often challenges growing old that make it harder for older adults to maintain social contact and connectedness with the people that they know. And there are many technological advancements in this day and age that can contribute to a greater well-being by helping older adults make social connections and maintain them over time. But due to the digital divide, it's very difficult for older adults to be able to benefit from these technologies. They're not like us, they didn't grow up with phones in their hands, and they didn't come into their lives at a time when they had to get used to them for work and social purposes. So they're really at a disadvantage with learning these things, and I definitely think that's something that we as a younger generation take for granted. I know myself, I particularly do. And this project also has a bit of a personal connection for my inspiration. My grandfather is very interested in being involved on social media. He's lived in a number of different places in his life and been involved in different things, and it would be a great way for him to be able to connect with people that he knows, but he's all the time asking me questions, calling me, or when I'm at his house, hey, can you help me with this? Once he even was on Facebook and posted on a picture of mine, it said, Abby, I can't log into Facebook, help. I didn't even really know where to start with that one, so we kind of just moved past it. But from seeing that, I know that he's interested and he can learn it and he wants to learn it. So I was imagining that there were a lot of older adults out there like him who could stand to benefit from learning about this technology and being able to put it to use in their everyday lives. So first I started with gathering some empirical support. I wanted to look at studies and make sure this was something that would actually be beneficial to people. And I found that there were many studies that had support for using the internet and social media to help older adults. And there were even studies that showed that having a training intervention of some sort helped them to use the technology better and gain more benefit from it. So you can see in the first study, participants felt less lonely, more in control, and more pleased with their quality of life. Support increased number of contacts that older people had, which is good from a health standpoint. The more social support you have, the more likely you are to adhere with health care plans and things of the like. And we have someone that you can call for help, which is really important as well. Another study showed that learning a new skill activated working memory, episodic memory, and reasoning, and enhanced cognitive function, which I know that is a concern. And for older adults, as you get older, being able to remember and learn new things can be a bit of a challenge, but by practicing it and learning and engaging with a new skill, you can actually improve those different skills and prevent memory loss and different problems like that. So my project was specifically aimed at combating the issue of loneliness and social isolation through the use of social media training. I decided I would teach a class to help older adults better be able to navigate Facebook, not only teaching them about the platform and how it works, but I also want to teach them to be safe in the process. I'm sure many of you have heard of different things where scams have been run and people have been taken advantage of and lost a lot. So I wanted them to be able to identify certain things that would help them stay safe and be able to control how much they were sharing with the world. So those were two of the big main goals for the class. I provided the class through the Community Center of Fort Wayne. The funding for this class was great because it required none. I used volunteer aides in classes. They were a huge help. My service was completely volunteer, so the Community Center was able to offer the class at no charge to anyone. The Community Center also provided computers and printing services for all of the materials for the class, which was really nice because everyone had the same thing, which was really helpful to be able to know on each computer that every person was looking at the same thing that I was. It was a lot easier than having different devices. And so, as I said, there was no additional funding necessary for this project. So a little bit more about the Community Center. They focus on a demographic for these classes, for their senior classes of, I believe, 50 and older. I was hoping to hit 55 and older. But they're really dedicated to providing things in the community for people of all ages, but specifically I was looking at what they provided for older adults. The class that I taught was called Facebook Safety and Basic Skills. We met every Wednesday for an hour and a half for 3 consecutive weeks. There were 10, I was hoping to have 10 people in the class, and again, the facility provided the computers and printing services. I also made a requirement for the class that the participants have some basic internet skills, like really basic, how to open an internet browser, navigate to a page. I also accepted any level of Facebook ability, and not even a requirement that you have an account beforehand. So I wanted to make it open to all kinds of people with all kinds of backgrounds and ability levels, even though that was probably a little bit more challenging. So for the methods, I decided to use a pre-test, post-test method. I wanted to see differences in time with loneliness as well as with social media skills. So the survey was administered before and after the class, and then I collected basic demographic information and perceived loneliness, as well as acquisition of skills. I wanted to be able to see that they were learning how to use different things, learning what different things meant, and in a way that was meaningful that they could put to use when I wasn't around. And I wanted to, I did that by gauging their use prior to and after the class of Facebook and other social media sites. I took advantage of these wonderful Summit Scholars here and collected 3 of them to help me each class meeting. And I want to give a special thanks to Scott Forsyth, Dylan Ganyu, and Brandon Blumenhurst. You guys were awesome. They loved you, by the way. There were many comments. Your help was absolutely integral to making this project a success. So thank you for that. This picture here is the fun times. It's how the class was advertised. The Fort Wayne Community Center offers, like I said, for all ages, all different backgrounds, different classes, different programs. So my class was listed in that book, and that's how people were able to find it. It was also listed online, but I don't imagine many of them found it that way. These are my wonderful participants. The demographic age range was 71.3 years, which is a little bit skewed because one of them decided that they would just write old in the blank. Not exactly hard-hitting data, but the sentiment was there for sure. I think that that's pretty representative. They were all within the age demographic I was hoping to get. There were 3 men in the class and 3 female participants. I also didn't intend to measure this, but kind of through interacting with them, I did gauge their marital status and social network. 6 of my participants actually came with their spouse, so 3 men and 3 women there were married, and 3 participants were actually a group of friends who signed up together, and I thought it was interesting that all of the men came with their wives. I don't know who initiated that, but every man in the class was there with a spouse, so there was a group of 3 who were good friends who came to the class together as well. So I wanted to include our selfie here with a slightly different haircut. This was pretty fun because we took this picture, but they were all like, "Oh, I can flip my camera." So we took a brief break from Facebook and taught how to flip your camera on your phone. So the selfies were like after this. So for the UCLA loneliness survey, it's widely studied and been shown to have good results, to be reliable, measuring what it's supposed to measure. It has 20 items that you rate on a 1 to 4 Likert rating scale, and it has statements like, "I'm no longer close to anyone," or "My social relationships are superficial." Those would be indicative of loneliness if they were rated as a 4. And then the items that reverse scored were items that were kind of the opposite. They say things like, "People really understand me," and "I feel they're people I feel close to." So a high score on those would be flipped backwards and reverse scored. For the pretest, I also collected demographic data, age, gender, things like that. I asked them about their Facebook knowledge and their usage with questions like, "How many hours a week do you spend on Facebook? And do you feel that your information is safe?" I wanted to gauge what their attitudes were towards social media, as well as how much they were interacting with it. I thought that was a good feel for how they knew what they were doing, if they were using it or not, how often they were using it. So in the post-test, it was really similar to the pre-test, but I added a few questions, like free response questions. I wanted them to be able to express themselves a little bit, so I could glean different things out of their responses than maybe just what I was looking for. So I added things like, overall, do you feel that you have learned in this class will allow you to use Facebook more effectively? And I asked them, what is a positive experience you've had because of Facebook? So for my materials, I created different things like this. This is one of the handouts that I would have used. And it shows all of these different things on Facebook that you may not know, like actually have a title. I didn't at first. So I wanted them to be able to know that this is your news feed, and this is where you're going to see and be able to interact with your friends on your Facebook page, in the chat, and just put a little definition of each thing. So I would go through them with this in the class, and then we would kind of set them loose, and they would get to look around at things. I thought it was really important for them to know exactly what was what, because we ran into issues with, like, they didn't know who was seeing what. So when you comment on a picture, you need to know that everyone's seeing that. But when you send a personal message just the person who you're sending it to sees that. There was a lot of confusion about that, so I was glad to be able to have this and tell them who was going to be able to be seeing what. Here's another example of my materials. Some of them were very instructional, and they had step-by-step lists for how to do a certain thing. So this was how to find friends, how to use the search bar, type in the person's name, and then it brings up a list. I found myself here. And I was trying to use safety throughout. I had specific things, specific days dedicated to safety, but I also tried to integrate it into the instructions where you see here in bold letters, do not request to be friends with or accept the friend request of anyone that you do not know. Just think that you know, as you go throughout, they can be right in the spot where you would need to see it when you were using it, rather than just I have to go look at the safety thing and find out what exactly I should be doing. So I felt like that was really important to the materials to be able to have that integrated throughout. On here, and at the end of it, you will be able to have requested your maybe first Facebook friend. I also made handouts. I wanted them to have like a concrete like Facebook dictionary that they could see different things and be able to look and see, okay, what is my status update? Who's going to see that? What are notifications? What does this mean? There's a little bit of lingo that I didn't realize that I knew, but they did not. So I compiled this so they could have a database to be able to just flip open and see, yes, I know what that is. And finally, here's another privacy-related handout that I've created for them. It shows them who can see what when you make a setting on your Facebook page, what it really means for it to be public or just friends. So for my results, the results of the UCLA loneliness scale were on a 20 to 80 point scale. So where 20 was not lonely at all and 80 was very, very lonely. My approximate score was 31.6 with a standard deviation of 8.7 and a range of 27 to 51, which you can probably see is like not lonely at all, which I was glad for them, but it was kind of a bummer for my project. The mean scores were actually, I looked at some range for my participants were both smaller than that of college students who took the same test in different studies, so they must be doing something better than we are. So not lonely, which again, I said was very good, but for my data, there was no significance either between the women and the men. That was just a little bit interesting because sometimes you see with older adults, especially in larger studies, that men tend to be a little bit more socially isolated, especially if they're unmarried and things like that. But again, these men were married, so that may have something to do with it. So the results of the pretest were pretty interesting. There were 4 people who didn't have a Facebook account at all or just weren't using it. They had one. A lot of them said things like, well, my daughter made one for me, but I've never used it. So we got people set up with accounts that they could use, and most of them did not know their privacy settings, or they simply shared everything, which I really wanted to make sure that I helped them change if they wanted to. They also wanted to use Facebook for the purpose of staying connected to family and friends, which was expected. Some of them also said they wanted to get their news sources that way and things like that. So, but mainly we wanted to learn how to connect with family and friends and people that maybe we haven't seen. None of them used Facebook more than once daily, and most only used it weekly. So there was not a whole lot, even amongst those who did have an account, there wasn't a whole lot of usage. In the post-test, I saw increased confidence in the participants that their personal information was secure. They had an increased number of Facebook friends on average, and they increased their posting and overall usage of Facebook. So those really showed me that they were using the service more, hopefully because they learned how to use it from what I had been teaching them. It seemed to me that they were learning based on the fact that they were finding more friends, using Facebook more, and feeling more secure about it. Participant feedback suggested more sessions per class, but they all did. Many of them mentioned that the volunteer support was helpful. So again, guys, thank you so much. They really enjoyed that. I think it was helpful too for them to be able to ask a question without derailing the whole class, because sometimes it was like a long question with a lot of steps to fix. So being able to have one person go and talk to the singular participant who needed help at that moment was really helpful, and I could continue to lead the class from the front. In the first response, many of them said that they felt they had learned new skills related to Facebook and had a positive experience as a result, which I was really glad to see. I was hoping that they would learn and be able to get positive experiences now that they knew how to use Facebook properly. So there were some limitations to this study. As I said, the participants had a high level of social engagement. 9 out of 10 of the participants had at least one person they were connected with in the class. So that's probably indicative of their overall social connectiveness as well. It's likely that they already have a lot of support and social connections. So I didn't get to see a change over time in loneliness and social isolation, but that is probably why. There was also a small sample size. 10 is pretty small for any kind of study to have statistically relevant data. And the study duration was also short with only 3 classes. I think in the future that would be better as shorter sessions over a longer period of time. I think that they would be able to acquire the information better that way and also be able to practice it for longer. So it would increase learning in that way. The participants also, I wasn't able to gauge just how much they were using the materials and actually going on Facebook and practicing their skills. But the class attendance was pretty good. I think the lowest attendance day was 7, so that's not too bad. But again, there are only 3 classes, so if 3 people are missing one class, they're missing 33% of the material. So I think that that could have also helped if they were at every class or if more classes were available. The study, I think that in the future, to see better results, could be conducted in a nursing home or an assisted living center where people are more likely to be socially isolated. There's a lot of problems that go into working in an assisted living center or nursing home. That's why the study didn't take place there this time. But I think now seeing these preliminary results, I think that it would definitely be warranted to pursue that avenue of teaching in a nursing home or assisted living facility. Or another thing that you could do is focus on people in isolated areas or those who live alone, specifically try and recruit people from that specific subset to be able to see changes over time. For the sustainability of this project, I wanted to make the instructional handouts, the class materials, and the videos, all the things I use in the class, I wanted them to be available to participants who are in the class as well as not, and wanted to be able to learn about this topic. So I made them available through the community center for all of the people that go there, as well as for future potential teachers of the class. I also wanted to get the data out, or get the materials out there through a Facebook group. I've created a group. This is a little bit new. I created the group, and it's a platform to disseminate these materials in different videos, as well as to answer some questions. Hopefully, if there's some really easy things, they can be answered quickly and concisely on Facebook. I was going to make videos myself of how to do this and that, but I was looking on the internet and I found there were videos already out there. So clearly they need to be in a place where people can find them. And I think that's the biggest thing. So that's why I went with the Facebook group instead, because there's some great resources. You just have to be able to get to YouTube and find them. And I think that people who are needing the help on Facebook are not going to be the same people who are going to YouTube how to change my Facebook picture. So I thought getting them at least onto Facebook in one location could help them to be able to use them and make use of that, what's already out there. I didn't need to reinvent these videos. And I also have shared some of this information with a future Chapman Scholar for their own project interests, so it can go on in that way as well. Here's the Facebook page where I share things like this video. These first 2 were about privacy. There's many online resources that are really, really great at explaining these things in a way that anyone could understand it. And I wanted them to be able to find them, as I said, in one location. So there's a description over there, and if anyone wants to join the group, find it on Facebook. So in conclusion, I studied the participants weren't lonely in the beginning. The students were able to learn the skills and express personal growth throughout the class. And I also believe that measurable differences would be more noticeable over a longer period of time or in a population with a greater degree of social isolation, as I previously mentioned. For me, teaching the class was definitely a learning experience, but it ended up being a really fulfilling and awesome time. I really enjoyed working with the participants, but going in, I was really nervous. Honestly, I didn't have any teaching experience, and I was kind of afraid I was going to get someone who knew more than I did and would ask me all these crazy questions, but they were really great. Everybody was there, wanted to learn and have a good time. We laughed a lot, and I really, really came to enjoy teaching the class on Wednesdays. In conclusion, what I learned, the biggest thing that I learned from my project is that there's a huge need among older adults for classes and things like this to help them better understand Facebook, but just technology in general. I think that by excluding them from that, we're missing out on not only interacting with them and getting to learn from their experiences, but also I think that they have something to give to us. And I think that if we teach them and invite them in to this technological advancement, this age that we're in, they can be really, really helpful. So that is my, I hope to see more classes and things like this just aimed at people who want to be involved but are not. So thank you all for your attention. I'll open up to questions. Dr. Blumenthal.
Certainly this society has a real dichotomy as to those who have and those who have not had this social media experience. I know that you're young, but looking ahead another 50, 60 years, do you think that the young people are going to experience the same type of, let's say, loneliness and disconnection from society that older people, though I hate to say that 71 is old, that older people may now face? I mean, what are you going to face when you're 70, 80, and are you going to experience the same type of loneliness, do you think?
I think it's definitely a possibility. Even using these things, it'll continue to advance. I'll have to continue to learn and engage with it. There are already things out there that I don't know how to use at all. So I definitely think that there's a possibility for that. I think it's up to us to maintain our engagement with it, but also hopefully, as a result of caring about the older generations, younger than us can see that we've engaged and made it a priority to teach people how to use these skills. So maybe when I'm old, someone will do this project or a project similar to this to help me, learn these skills. I definitely think that for technology, it's going to keep moving, keep advancing, and a lot of us are going to fall off of keeping up with it. And younger people inventing it and using it every day to help us keep up with it. So I think that there will be similar problems. Maybe not. Maybe Facebook will be popular forever. I kind of think it won't, but yeah. Already, you can see divides. Facebook used to be the college demographic, and now more and more it's people 30, 40 plus, and people who are younger to Twitter and Instagram and things like that. So I think we're going to keep pushing the agenda, making it more and more advanced, and hopefully they'll continue to include people. When I'm 71, I can get to learn about whatever. Thank you.
I was curious about the platform. So here you have social media, or Facebook using that for the social media connection. Have you thought of that as the platform to use, or maybe something like Skype, or have you thought about differences there in terms of what might be more effective to help the seniors feel more connected, less depressed?
Absolutely. I chose Facebook because I felt that it was the most user-friendly and also the most likely to have people that they would be looking for on it. As I said, that's getting to be the people, who are older are interacting. So that's where you're going to have the demographic of people like themselves. I chose Facebook for this. I also think that, like you said, Skype would be a great one to be able to teach, because then you can video chat with friends and family. But a lot of them, I think, were already kind of doing that sort of thing, because their kids will walk them through it on the phone. But not a lot of us have the patience to walk our grandparents through Facebook, because we have busy lives ourselves, and it's really hard to step away from whatever you're doing and walk mom through how to make this Facebook post. Sorry, my mom's here. She's giving me a face. But I think that, there are many technologies out there. I chose Facebook and limited it to that because that's what I felt that I had time to do and I had the skills to do. But I absolutely think that more training, even just so much as putting on, teaching a class where it's specifically on your smartphone would be helpful. So I think that, there are many technologies out there. I chose Facebook because for the reasons that I said. I think there are many that they could benefit from, though. Thank you.
Hey, Abby.
Hi.
Great job.
Thank you.
I just wonder, anecdotally, I think it's interesting that you taught your participants that there can be some downsides. There are some real safety concerns. I wonder if anecdotally your participants made any sorts of comments about some of the negative things that can sometimes be out there on Facebook, like the kinds of things that people tend to post. And I wonder if you think where they are in their lifespan, if they would be more or less affected by some of the, well, frankly, garbage that can be out there on Facebook.
Yeah. I definitely have some funny stories of things that they said. There was one, she was talking about one of her, young girl relatives and the way that she dressed these days, and her friends. I was like, well, that's okay. All right, yeah. So, no, I think that there's some things out there that they might be more sensitive to, and things like fake news and stuff, lines that are just completely not true. So I tried to help them be able to see what's real and what's not, beyond just like what are you sharing with people, and so be able to see like a headline or evaluate the source that it's coming from, so that they could better understand what's real and what's not, what's good for the social media aspect. That was really important to me. I know that it's really hard. Sometimes even I get caught. I see a headline, I'm like, oh my gosh, and I click it. I'm like, no, that's not true. Will Smith did not die today. Things like that. So I really just, I think that, yeah, definitely there are some aspects that they might be more likely to fall into those traps, but hopefully through what I taught them, I've equipped them well to manage it.
Hi there, I'm Steve Carr, and first of all, I just want to say I thought you did a fantastic job of presenting, and I hope you're considering going into a field related to teaching and education, because I think you have some real raw talent. So my question actually goes back to something that Ron had asked. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on the recent Cambridge Analytica scandal. And in particular, I'm wondering if there's anything that you might do or teach differently in this course now that we've become aware not just of kind of threats or potential violations of online privacy and security between other Facebook users, but in fact that Facebook itself as a company has clearly been implicated in a scandal that involves harvesting people's private data and then selling that or making that available to fourth parties.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a huge problem. Unfortunately, I don't know a ton about what's happened. I've seen, some of the headlines and the different things, so I don't know exactly what I would teach differently related to that. But I think there's a lot that you can't safeguard for everything. So I wanted the participants in my class to know, and other people using social media to know that, be as diligent as you can, but there's still some risk. I would rather have someone decide not to use it at all, knowing the risks, than have someone go on there not comfortable with the risks. So I tried to make that clear, and I also tried to tell them not to share anything that you wouldn't want anyone to know anyway. I know that still your data is being used in ways that you don't want it to be, but not to put anything out there that you wouldn't feel comfortable telling, anyone. Is pretty important. So I don't think that I would have changed the class much, but I really tried to, even before this happened, just emphasize that there are risks and that they should be considered before choosing to use any type of social media platform. But yeah, that's definitely a problem that we have to deal with, and keeping social media companies accountable for what they're doing with our data is hugely important, I think, the scope of this class, but I would definitely want people to be aware of that before using it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it? Well, thank you all for listening. I appreciate it.